The movie you're making me watch today is Lons von Trier's House That Jack Built. It's close enough.
Close enough. Lars von Trier.
Justin von Bieber's House That Jack Built.
Yes.
Yeah. You got any haikus to start it off with?
I think I have
I
a
do.
haiku.
I'll start.
All right. Schwartz's movie.
Unless you want to start, Jake.
I have two.
Geez, cutting me
All
out of the equation. Why are you cutting me out, Schwartz? You afraid we got the same one?
Because you suck.
No, we're the same haiku. Schwartz, it was your pick. You can start the haiku.
All right, I'm going to do the haiku,
Section.
okay? So copy me, all right?
Copy.
All right. I'm laughing really hard right now. You got to stop laughing.
Oh, God.
Say your
Please
damn
stop
haiku.
laughing. This guy's got laughing. All right. Glimpse a twisted mind. House built on dark thoughts entwined. Horror's path to find.
Rhymed it, huh?
I like
that
to
rhyme.
You don't have to
I like
rhyme
to
haiku.
Rhyme makes it better. Rhyming makes it better, though. Rhyming makes it better.
Fun flow.
Kind of amateur. Kind of amateur hour.
No.
All right, go ahead, Schwartz. I mean, Jake, I got to write a new one now. That was mine.
I have two. I have one that's more Lars von Trier focused, and then one just an overall, this is the movie and how I feel about the movie. I'm going to go with that one first. This is how I feel about the movie. Pretentious bullshit. Sophistication my ass. Unwatchable smut. That's how I feel.
Love it.
Who said
Yeah.
sophisticated?
His name in the movie is like, his
Mr.
self-proclaimed
Sophistication.
was Mr. Sophistication.
Oh, yeah. I'm not going to lie. I haven't seen this movie in like 2 weeks.
3 years.
What do you mean? You didn't rewatch it?
No.
What the fuck is wrong with you?
This movie is so unwatchable. It's like,
Get
it's
out of here.
I couldn't rewatch this shit again. Like I've watched this enough times because I swear I'm amazed we're doing this right now because I feel like this is the cursed movie that almost took us so long to do this podcast.
Jake, are you
This is the
on?
cursed
Are you on
movie?
your microphone, or is your microphone on? It sounds
Yeah,
like you. Sounds
I
like you.
think so, isn't it? Do you know
Tap
yours?
it. No, you're not. Your microphone's not
Oh,
on.
okay. That
I-
makes sense because I feel like
In the last
One
episode, it
it
was
sounded shitty.
in the last
yeah,
episode,
it did.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Fix that.
Anyway, Jake hates this fucking movie.
How about now?
There
There
you
you
go.
go.
That sounds like
Okay.
Jake.
Sorry, yeah. That's why I knew I sounded shitty in Barbenheimer pod.
You sound so much better now. It's insane.
Okay, good.
So back to the reasons why you hate this movie.
Yeah,
well,
give
Anthony, you got to do
Wait.
you got to do your haiku.
Didn't you have a second one?
I do.
Yeah, what's your
You
second
want
one?
My second one? All right, this is one where it's more about Lars. Lars thought to himself, "What can I get away with? He's just a pervert."
I love that one. That one
That's a
fits
good
very
one.
well.
Thank you.
All right, mine's just this. Silence of the Lambs meets American Psycho, an hour too long.
Fair.
I love the last line. I definitely agree with that.
I love the last 15 minutes of this movie though, when they're in like walking through hell. That's fun. That's a good.
Bro,
time.
it's fucking 15 minutes of just them walking and talking. It just drags for so long. There's so
Dude,
many
this
times
is
I
this
wanna
movie's 3 hours of walking and talking.
Oh my god.
He's talking to Verge, dude. You guys didn't like Verge? That voice was soothing and
so
creepy.
unbearable. It starts very strong and interesting, but every fucking scene makes me want to turn it off.
Yeah.
After that.
I mean, it's definitely supposed to
Except
show
for the
you
scene where they
terrible
killed
things.
the wife and kids. That was pretty rad.
That scene's insane. When I saw that in the theater, I was like, I saw this movie in the theater. I was like, what the fuck? I remember thinking to myself, that's one of the most horrific things I've ever seen in a movie, especially when he fucking freezes him and makes him have the face. I was like, this is absolutely insane.
What
And
made you
I
go
get
see
why-
that movie in the theater?
Because it was 2018 and it was the new Lars von Trier movie, and I had probably just heard who Lars von Trier, not that I just heard, but I remember I'd seen Antichrist, which is a movie he made before this, I think, or a couple movies before this. And I had seen the Nymphomaniac movies, and I was super into him. And then I went to see this, and I'd never seen one of his movies in the theater.
Those
And
are
so
the reasons I
went-
didn't see the movie in the theater.
I went. See, I like movies about dark subjects that are fucked up. Like he's like David Lynch in that way. He just makes these weird movies that are dark and about terrible fucking people. Like he's a little bit more satire and taking his own way of doing things. Like that's the thing I like about Lars von Trier movies too, is he doesn't play by the rules. He does what he wants. He does it in any visual way he wants. He does it in any story way he wants. Like, I mean, he was one of the creators of the Dogma 95 movement back in the day when they did that whole thing where they took all like made these movies under these like 30 rules or 50 rules or something like that. and they made these really low budget movies, and they were all fucking pretty interesting, really, really character driven and fun. He just does things.
Number 7: make them unlikable to the general audience.
Is that one of them?
Number 7. I'm
That's
looking at it
awesome.
right there.
That's great. That's great. If that's one of the rules, I love it.
I don't think that's a real rule.
Anyway, that's another thing to talk about. Like he's kind of like a maverick filmmaker. You know what I mean? Like a dude who just does whatever he wants, and he's able to make these fucking crazy movies. Like he's made some pretty great films, and a lot of big actors want to work with him because he's made
certainly got away with a lot of movies.
People like it. It's art. You know what I mean? It's the definition of fucking art.
From what I've heard and seen and researched, it looks like not a lot of women like working with him.
I mean, yeah. Well, I mean, have you seen this movie? This movie is all about this guy hating women.
I mean, Charlotte Gainsborough has been a couple movies.
Listen,
yeah,
I'm not saying he's a good guy. I'm not saying his views are correct. I'm not saying I support the things he personally believes. I'm saying the movies that he makes are entertaining and twisted, and I like both those things.
I don't think they're entertaining though.
I do. I think they're very entertaining.
It's
I think the characters are super interesting.
It's like slowly watching someone murder someone, and that's the movie.
In this movie, yes, it is that.
And there's literally one scene.
But that's another thing I like about this movie is that there's only been one other movie that's been made about like a killer or a serial killer or a killer in general, where you only see it from the side of them, and that's American Psycho. And that movie was just as crazy. Every other movie you see it from the police side or a family side or someone's side else besides for his. But this was 100% just through his eyes, and that makes it interesting too. And I'd like
American
the whole thing
Psycho
about like
is fun and not
American Psycho is pretty twisted.
It's super twisted. It's just as
it's
fucked
more
up as this
entertaining.
movie, and really what it is.
Why do you
better
find
than
it
this
more
movie.
entertaining?
Yeah, what's more
I don't
entertaining?
really know. I don't know. Just maybe the situations.
Do you like the way
faster.
do you like the way he kills people better?
I think it's a little more humorous. I mean, both movies have good humor. I'll give them that. Like both movies have moments of like, this is kind of funny.
Listen, I know you hate this movie, but you gotta admit, like it's a well-made movie. Like it's filmmaking.
It was well made. It was well made.
Pretty fucking top notch.
Super slow. That's the
It's
problem
a
with
vision.
It's
thing. Definitely one man's fucking vision. You know what I mean? It's
Beyond
100% him.
Beyond the subject matter of Lars von Trier's movies, his movies are slow as fuck.
They do
and
move
way too
slow.
long.
They do move slow. And I'm not saying you gotta like his movies. I'm not saying you got obviously you didn't like this movie, and you don't like Lars von Trier movies. It's being pretty obvious now you don't. Have you seen a lot of his other movies?
I think I've tried to watch a few, and I don't know if I've watched any of them and finished any of them other than this one. And I want to say I probably finished Melancholia. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I just don't remember if I saw that one sitting, but I think I watched all of that.
I feel like his movies drag on and are a bit unmemorable to that point where you could watch the whole thing and be like, I'm pretty sure I watched the whole thing. I don't know.
Right.
Like, there's a certain point I feel like I haven't seen many of his movies, but in this movie, and I seen Dancer in the Dark like a long time ago. My mom liked that movie, I think, because she liked Bjork. There's just a point where you're just like, all right, I feel like I get what this movie's saying.
Right.
I just got to get through the rest of it.
And this movie was like you got there within like the first hour. I think after the first two incidences is what they refer to as. Like I'm like, all right, I get it. And then after that, it's super fucking dragged. Yeah,
That was funny that he kept him in the pizza freezer. Never ate the extra pizza.
Some
like
fun
every
parts.
time they cut back into the pizza freezer, I kind of laughed. And there was like 20 more bodies in there. Like Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he says he killed 60 people. Remember, that's what he ends up being.
At one point, he says that, but then who knows?
Isn't
it's like we're
like 10 years.
12 years.
I think it's 12 years. It was 5 random incidences over 12 years, and I don't even know if they were like specifically in order or what.
No, I don't.
I think
so
the
either.
first. I feel like the first one, even though they never say it, I feel like the first one that was his first kill, right? The Uma Thurman.
I think so, because like I think like she almost convinces him to do it, right?
Yeah,
like her words are like what he's thinking.
And there's some like symbolism in there of like the jack breaking. It's almost like when he broke.
True. Okay.
He's Jack.
Okay. True.
You're
I'm sure that was on purpose.
Right.
It was on purpose, I'm sure.
And it was red.
Well,
the van was red.
Said,
Red's very much. There's a lot of symbolism in this movie.
He said Jack about 100 times in the first 5 minutes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let me set up a little bit better real quick.
Set it up, dude. Set it up.
Meet Jack.
Put it up. Set it up. Build
Dillon.
the house.
we meet Jack, played by Matt Dillon. He's an architect, and this movie's in the 80s, right? This is like
He's a failed
is this
architect.
an 80s movie?
It starts in I believe it starts in the 80s.
Dude,
Yeah, I
failed.
think that's when he
They're
killed
never
him.
specific because it's over a 12-year period, but I believe it starts in the 80s. I believe like 88 is referenced at some point. I don't remember when.
Calling someone a
one point.
failed something is rough, you know? It's just like you haven't
Demeaning.
made it yet, you know? It's not like you failed. Did he fail and he gave
I
up?
thought he
He's
like
still
referred to
building
himself
shit.
as that.
Well, I'm just saying he shouldn't refer to
'Cause
himself
his
as that. He should
job
be a little
wasn't
more
actually-
positive to himself.
His job wasn't actually architecture. It's true.
I
Maybe
think if
focus on it.
Jack's inner monologue or monologue to Verge was just
Verge,
a little
baby.
more positive, I think he would have been fine. I think he could have just been a little
Well,
nicer to himself.
he certainly thinks pretty highly of himself.
Oh, he's
He certainly
arrogant
has
as
like
fuck.
a outrageous ego for what he is.
Well, he looks like this is like all right. So anyway, let's get into it. We meet Jack. He's in 1980s. He's played by Matt Dillon. He's this failed architect he seems like a pretty smart guy. Like he says he seems like he's got his shit together, but you come to realize
Seems.
slowly that he has really, really terrible views on people and things and life in general. And he's talking to somebody in his mind who he calls Verge. And Verge sounds like this fucking European fucking Rico Suave motherfucker. It's kind of seems important, you know what I mean? He's kind of got like a haunting kind of voice, you know, like somebody would be in like an Eyes Wide Shut party, you know.
An
what I
old
mean?
German guy, I think.
Is it
A Danish
German? Is
guy.
this his
Or
voice?
Danish or
Well, it's
Denmark or
Danish. Yeah, Lars von Trier is Danish, and a lot
Yeah.
of people are
Well,
from.
I think this
that
dude's
area.
German because he played Hitler in Downfall.
There we go.
Oh,
He's certainly German, yeah. Then yeah, he's German.
He did. I can see it now. I'm picturing
That's
the
I
Hitler.
remember
face.
that now. Yeah.
That's
Dude,
true.
Lars loves Hitler.
That's another thing. Yeah,
For
Lars
sure.
von Trier is a fucking racist piece of shit, I guess.
Bit of a Nazi.
Yeah.
Is he though?
I don't know. I mean,
From
research
everything
that while you
I've
talk
read
about
about
it.
Lars von Trier, he sounds like a terrible person.
Really?
Yes.
He's very much like Jack in that he's full of himself, thinks what he makes is the best shit on the planet, thinks that his filmmaking stature is with one of the greats. Like he has a kind of a feud with Nicholas Winding Refn, who's also Danish, and it's pretty funny. I don't know if you guys ever heard about that, but they like,
What's
go back
that
and forth
about?
at each other. I think that I don't know. I think like Nicholas Winding Refn came in the game later, and like he kind of had his own vision too. Like he made these pusher movies starring Mads Mikkelsen. They were like really like low budget crime films, kind of in the vein of like Scorsese's Mean Streets, but they were crime that took place in what's the capital of where do Danish people from? Where do they live?
Denmark.
Fucking Denmark. Yeah, it's like crime people in Denmark. Is it Denmark? It's I don't know, somewhere
Yeah,
over there.
it's Denmark.
Yeah, that's where they're from.
Is Copenhagen is the
Copenhagen.
capital, yeah?
I don't know. Copenhagen and Denmark are both in their movies. That's where obviously where they're from. And
I think
and it's
Copenhagen's
just
the
these
capital.
crazy, just like hyper edited, like late 90s, like music video type fucking things. And they're really, really crazy. But anyway, I don't know. I think they just kind of got into a feud because they were big
Okay.
fucking ego fucking Danish people.
Well, even if you listen to the what Jack is saying in those little speeches he gives, it very much sounds like this is Lars von Trier talking, because he's like, people are just I am the product of my imagination and the art of the blah blah blah, and like all the art shit that he's talking. It's very self-referential to him.
Yeah.
When did
thinks
he
he's-
when did he start acting?
Who?
Because he was in Austin Powers.
Lars von Trier was?
Yeah,
Oh, I
he's
don't know.
mini
Who
That's
me.
a
was
good
he in
question.
Austin Powers? Who was he in Austin Powers?
He's mini me.
Oh, okay. You mean Vern Troyer? Okay, that was
Yeah,
that
what do
almost
you
was
say?
funny. That was almost funny. That was
You
almost
laugh.
funny.
You're both
Yeah,
laughing. right
because-
now.
I think that's funny because I didn't even make the connection that it was. he's
Yeah,
talking
I was
about
like,
Vern
he's in
Troyer.
Austin Powers.
I'm like, yeah, he's been in stuff, right? I'm like thinking that, and then
You know who is
I
an
get the
actor
reference.
director is fucking the dude who directed this movie. The guy got accused of like raping children. Fucking Polanski. He was in Rush Hour
Polanski.
too. Remember when
Yeah.
they went to
That
to
was kind of
Paris?
a
Polanski's in his own movie too.
I read
One of his own
about
movies.
I read about that. I think that was kind of like a
sick fuck.
it was kind of like a moment. It was they did it out of opportunity. He was there in France, and they were shooting in France, and they I think they were like, and he was like, hey, I like the first movie. He was like, hey, you want to be in it? It was very much a cameo.
It was, but still, he did a lot of cameos in his own shit too.
Oh, really?
Woody Allen's like that too.
Name 6 other cameos.
Well, I mean, I think he was in Knife in the Water, and I think he's in Repulsion too, the movie, and I think he's in The Apartment.
If
He's
Schwartz
in
is
all those
wrong,
films.
comment.
I don't
in-
know. I think
comments.
I'm right. I know he's in The Apartment because I watched that.
I hope you're wrong.
I don't know about Repulsion for sure though. All right.
Isn't The
Anyway,
Apartment his movie?
All right, back
Yes.
to Vern Troyer.
Yeah, he's the star of the movie. Vern
Back
Trier
to
himself.
Lars von Trier, Jack. Just
Jack,
all the
yeah.
all the he just sounds like he's talking about himself when he's talking about like murdering people and wanting to. He probably wants to murder people, but instead he has to make movies about murdering people.
I probably think you're right. He probably wanted to kill somebody so bad and thought, well, why don't I just make a movie bad so I don't do it?
Have you
That would
ever
be not
wanted to kill
surprising me.
somebody?
No.
Maybe.
I mean, if I've been mad at somebody, sure, but
probably.
I never want to kill somebody.
Kill somebody. You ever thought about like, oh, I'm so mad I could just kill this person right now?
I mean, sure, but that's just like
Yeah.
saying it. Like actually doing it is a whole other thing.
Well, he's not doing it. He's making a movie about it.
Yeah, he just makes movies about it.
I mean, he kind of did do it. He set it up. He really did pretend to kill those people and do things.
Yeah,
They shot those
his,
things.
His fucked uppery
They
just
definitely
is
shot
just
those things.
projected through his.
What do you mean?
His lens.
That Riley Coe scene is pretty crazy. He's calling her simple and like making fun of her, and he just fucking starts marking her up with the marker and shit. Like that was so wild.
The one where he cuts her titties off?
Yeah, that was
Well,
crazy.
let's get there.
All right,
keep
let's
going.
get there.
Keep
yeah.
going.
Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. I don't think anybody is gonna have watched House of Jack built. That's the funny part about this one.
People
Anyway.
have seen it.
I don't think anybody should.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this guy's got an imaginary guy he's talking to, or his guy is in his mind, and he conversates with him. His name's Verge. He's this German fucking creepy voice. And just to jump a little bit ahead, Verge basically contradicts Jack at all times. He says he's arrogant. He tells him he's not as smart as he thinks he is, and tries to get him to be kind of more grounded. And Jack just goes against him at all times, be like, nah, I'm the best. You know what I mean? I got this all figured out. So that's kind of like their relationship. And so it starts with incidents.
It's him telling over. It's just him explaining to Verge his motives in life and why he kills people, more or less.
Yeah,
he early on says he kills people, and he's just telling them these are 5 incidents over the 12 years, and then he goes in the first instance with Uma Thurman. Car's broken down on the side of the road. I think, does he pull over to help her or something?
Yeah, he pulls her to help her. She gets in, he realizes that her tire's fucked and that he needs to go get her tire fixed. And she's trying to get him to do that, and he doesn't want to.
He's like actively not really helping. He was just like, no, I want to give you a ride. I'll just go let them know you're here. All right, it'll be fine. And she's like, no, it's fine. I'm gonna jump in your car. She basically makes him murder her.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Yeah.
At that point, I might have done that same thing.
I also like going into what Jake is saying though, is like think that's what the thing is that this is in his mind. Like, is any of this really how it happened? Who knows? Like that could just be like justifying like he really wanted to kill her and that's how he saw it go down, or he thought it went down. You know what I mean? Like I feel like you're never quite sure if any of this is actually could be how it went down. Maybe it's
similar to American Psycho. He's the unreliable narrator from his perspective.
100%.
And this guy's clearly fucked up and makes himself the hero of most
I
scenes.
do like your synopsis or your thoughts on the Jack and how that's a broken.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, because it's never clear that he never specifically says this is the first time he killed someone, but it is referred to as the first incident. And he seems unreliable. He doesn't want to have anything to do with this woman for the most part, because he takes her to takes
her shit for a while.
He does. He takes her to the shop, and then that dude can't do anything, so he takes her back to the car, tries to use his jack to help her, but his jack breaks. Jack broke, and then she's like, all right, well, you just got to take me back to the shop then. And he's like, no, I got shit to do, lady. I gotta go. She's like, nope, you're taking me. And then basically gets into his car, and he's just like, all right, well, fuck, I guess I'm going to. And then she's like, well, early on, she jokingly says, oh, I shouldn't have done this. You could be a serial killer for all I know.
Yeah.
But then later in the movie, or later in the scene, she kind of starts patronizing him even more, like, you know what, I was wrong. You couldn't kill anyone. You're a fucking idiot, basically. So
she calls him a wimp.
Yeah, you're a little wimp. And then he smashes her face in with the broken jack.
Yeah.
And that's when the first time we see the pizza freezer too. That's where he takes her and puts her in the freezer.
Right. And that's the one unclear part, because it's like, why would he own this pizza freezer if he's not killing people already? But there's also no dead people in it. So
in my mind,
that's not his first kill.
Maybe
in my mind, it's like this is his first kill, and this is like him with a plan to kill people. But maybe this was the catalyst. Maybe her saying those things was the way he pictured it in his mind of whatever she was really saying. But that's how he got it from her. You know what I mean? He took her and was like, well, no, she doesn't think I can kill her. You know what I mean? She's a fucking, and then that's why he did it. Like, I mean, that's what I take from it. That was just his mind playing tricks on him.
And
maybe he wanted to open up a pizzeria, and he just had, he had that, and then he started murking people.
Well, he jokingly said the person just left the food behind because they're so shitty, and he tried one, and he's like, I couldn't even finish it. and I never did anything with pizzas. So like that, I don't know. There's just little weird humorous interjections, and that's one of them.
Yeah,
I
It
thought
just
the
happens to
pizzeria
be
was
pizza.
funny.
Yeah, it is pretty funny.
So there were
So-
no other bodies in the pizzeria in the first one?
I don't know. At
I
that
don't
point, I
think
don't
so.
think so. And he just
Mm-mm.
kind of says he bought it as like an investment or something. So I don't know. I think he kind of remarks on it, but it's not clear.
I think
So
he's been
I
trying to-
still think that's the first thing, but maybe
I
he's
think he's been
kind
planning on killing people, and he needed a place to store him, and this has just ended up being the first body he puts in there.
of, yeah.
I think it's just her she drew him over the edge, you know.
Yeah,
Made him go off.
Because even in
Mm.
the second incidents, he's not like a seasoned killer, but it
Yeah.
seems like that's not like the second time he did it. He seems like he knew what he was doing at that point with like approaching them and whatnot, but he was sloppy about it, like the way he killed her. And then he even remarks to Virgil, like, I've gotten better at choking people since then, something like that.
So the second incident is where the movie gets fucked up, really. Like not to say that the first scene wasn't fucked up, but like you didn't really have any like sympathy for Uma Thurman's character because
Yeah.
you realized that she sucked, and like
I
when
was-
she got hit, you were like, oh, that's good, fuck her. You know what I mean? It's a movie,
Yeah,
fuck her.
you sympathize with Jack
A
at
little
the,
bit,
at the
yeah,
first
a
scene.
little
Like
bit,
that's the
yeah.
only time in the movie I think you're sympathizing with him because it's
Damn,
like
you guys
he
are
is
fucked up.
getting provoked.
Yeah.
And she was a fucking bitch. Like she was definitely a mean, needy little like old lady that was just telling him
Yeah.
what to do and being an asshole to him. So you sympathize with him, but of course things definitely go off the rails. And I was into the movie at this point because I'm like, oh, what the fuck? This is interesting. It's a really interesting start.
Yeah.
And
It
then
definitely-
the second scene is definitely where it gets
Second scene, he sees an old woman walking down the road, and he's in a van, and he's watching her, and she goes into this big empty house, and he goes up to the door and tells her he's the cops, and she won't let him in. And then he realizes that he really hasn't really planned this too well and doesn't really have anything much else to say. So he's got to kind of make it up as it goes. And then he tells her, oh, he's not the cops. He's what is he's from? He sees the picture of her
like an
husband.
insurance agent or
Yeah, he
something.
sees a picture of her husband on the wall. I think he looks in the house and sees that he was like on a railroad or something, and that he didn't see him around. So I think he just puts two and two together, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm from the insurance agency, and I'm gonna get you more money on your husband's pension or your pension, whatever it was." And she's like, "Oh," and he actually says to her, "They're trained to tell her that he's a cop, so
Yeah.
that she,
This is
so that
Edgar's
she'll-
wife too, right? Men in
Yeah,
Black.
it is Edgar's
Yeah.
wife. Yeah,
Sugar
Yeah.
water.
sugar water.
Sugar water.
So she lets him in thinking she can get more money because who doesn't fucking want more money? And he right here is where you realize that he's also not only is he about to do something bad, but he's OCD and he's really unsure of himself. Like he's a mess. Like this is where you realize he's a fucking mess of a person because he's almost like she is no threat to him physically, so he knows that at any second he could just take her out. Like so he's walking around the house kind of like looking at himself like thinking about what he's gonna do and shit like that, and he starts like bullshitting her. Like, he doesn't explain to her for a few more scenes about what he's about to give her. Like he's gonna give her like a certain amount of money or something.
Yeah, just like double the pension. I think it's
Yeah.
just that's all it was. It was just talking about double the pension.
So what do they actually talk about then once he's in the house? Then like
I think
he
he
quickly
just starts
goes
saying a bunch
after.
of bullshit, and then
Yeah.
she's like, "What the fuck?" And then I think she
Yeah.
offers him something to drink, and then he pounces on her.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like you see him in his mind think this through about what he's about to do and how he's going to do it, and he doesn't pay her any mind of that. Like she could stop him. You know what I mean? So
There's no
he's
plan.
like she's like
to what he's
irrelevant to
doing.
her. Yeah, she's like irrelevant.
Chamomile
So-
tea, I believe it was.
Yeah, so he like tries to choke her to death, right? And he
Mhm.
kid get her to die, and she's like breathing on the floor, like wheezing, and then he ends up trying to choke her again, right? And
Yeah, she gets up, she runs away,
Yeah.
and then he does it again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he's having trouble killing her, and then he ends up stabbing her in the fucking chest, which was pretty horrific.
Right. And it goes from that scene is actually funny. Like that conversation they had is funny because it's him just bumbling his way through this conversation and her
Mhm.
just being like, okay.
And then,
okay.
well, doesn't he like he chokes her out and like thinks he kills her, and then she's not dead, and then
Yeah.
he's like
And that's
trying
when
to
it
comfort,
turns.
and then he's like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry that I did this to you. He's
Mhm.
like while she's dying,
Yeah, and they
and then
stabbed
he
her.
stabs her, right?
Yeah, that's pretty fucked up. And then as he's about to get the body out of the house, or I don't know if he does get the body into the car yet, a cop comes to the house, right? And he like knocks on the door, and he's like, "Why did a cop come to the house? I can't even remember."
No, this was later, but he drives by and then he comes back again and actually says something about someone saw
Oh,
like an
yeah.
intruder in the neighborhood. And then he talks about like there was one of the neighbors was referenced earlier in that conversation. He like drives by, it's like Randy or something. It's like, oh, you know Randy. Yeah, Randy's a good guy. And then he just kind of sticks with that. And then the cop was like, oh, Randy Ripper. He's like, oh, did that happen to Randy? Like he was acting like he was like knew the neighborhood and shit. Still with that little facade going on.
Yeah, but wait. So when does
What?
he drag her body and then the fucking blood trail happens? That's before the cop thing.
That's after the cop thing, because then he goes back inside and
He tries
that's
to
when
fix the place up, right?
yeah, because he tells the cop that she went missing.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's like having this weird conversation. The cop's like, "Why are you here?" And then he's like, "Oh, it's
I
the
don't think
strangest
that-
thing."
I think that happens all after he cleans her body up.
No, when
Yeah,
he's
'cause the cop doesn't
the
find her
dragging. Yeah,
Like
he drags
I
them
think
out
he
because
stays there. He kills her. He stays there till like night, and then he goes and gets a bunch of shit, and then he like starts to clean her up at night. Pulls her down the stairs. He's all dressed like Patrick Bateman. Puts her in a car, and then he's about to leave, and the cops are coming, and he keeps going back and forth. That happens all before he talks to anybody, I think.
Well, I
Yeah,
remember
when-
he drags
I
the
think-
body all the way back to his freezer, and then the rain washes it away.
Yeah,
'Cause,
yeah.
he's,
You're definitely jumping ahead because there was a whole scene with the cops before he leaves because he hides the body in the bushes when the cop comes up to him because
Oh,
he's
yeah.
thinking like, oh, okay, he's gonna think I'm suspicious and he's probably gonna search my van.
So this happens right after he kills her, right? So after
This
he
happens
kills her,
right
the
after
cops
he kills
come.
her.
Yeah, that's right.
Because then he's all weird and meticulous about the cleanup. Because then he goes back in with the cop after he tells the cop that she went missing, and then he's like, "You need to check this place top to bottom." Because then he like in his head he wants to make sure that he did a good job.
yeah.
That's kind of what it seemed like. He was like looking for some sort of reassurance.
Yes. I think
He's
he was
like-
trying to get the cop to like show him something he missed or something.
Yeah, like he's trying to he's almost like trying
Yeah.
to get caught or something fucking weird.
Well, that's the thing. I think in the vein, he almost doesn't care. He does it so nonchalantly through this whole movie that I don't think he fears getting caught whatsoever.
Well, it's
Yeah,
this part
this
that
whole
leads
part
up
where
to
he-
him getting to that. Because
Yeah.
then the cop is like, "All right, dude, you're being a fucking weirdo. You should leave so we can figure out why she went missing." And then he literally just drives away with her. That's when he drives away with her being tied to the car
The cops
and
still
like
in the
leaving a
house.
trail of blood to where he
Yeah.
is. But
Yeah.
that's when it starts raining, and then he's like, "I felt this was a sign from God that I will not like." Basically, that he can't
Yeah.
get caught.
Yeah.
It's kind of at that point where he's just like, "I don't have to do all that bullshit. I can just fucking do whatever I want."
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
What a crazy movie! This movie's great. This movie's fucking
And
great.
and all that shit was good. Like that scene is super disturbing, but it's interesting
Yeah.
to these points. And then after
When he
this,
keeps
is kind of
going
when
back in to
it's
clean
bad.
all that shit up. I like
Yeah.
that part.
And then the
OCD.
third scene or the third incident is, third is the fucking most fucked up one.
Yeah, well, there's a little midpoint where he's talking to Verge, and I like this point too. I like this part because it's in this earlier. I think it might be between the first incident and the second incident, or maybe between the second and third, where he's talking about like walking through a series of streetlights and how when you're under one street light, that's when your shadow is the smallest but most like dense and strongest. But as you walk away from the lights, like your shadow gets more stretched out, and as you get more stretched out, you enter this like zone of pain where you're like split apart and split into two spots as you're going through one into the other. And it's just, I don't know, I liked that whole metaphor of, and that's him talking about feeling the strongest when he's killing people.
Yeah,
And
that's
in
a great
between
scene.
each murder, he's like needs it more.
Yeah, it's fiending. He's fiending until he kills again.
Yeah,
He's got to
I
kill
like
people.
that. Yeah, the metaphor with like the Enlightenment and everything like that. It's
He's
kind of,
got to kill
it's
people.
fucked up,
like,
but it was interesting.
It's like that movie with Dane Cook and Kevin Spacey or Kevin Costner.
Mr.
Remember we just
Brooks.
talked about that?
What?
Mr. Brooks.
Mr. Brooks.
No.
He's got to
There's
kill
a-
people.
Dane Cook and Kevin Costner on a
You
movie
never see
together?
that movie?
Yeah,
No, I haven't seen that movie.
it's a sleeper.
Sounds
Sleeper.
kind of interesting.
As in you'll
Dane
fall
Cook?
asleep through it, or
He also starts taking photographs of his victims, starting with the lady he stabs too. Remember, like his art pieces. Like he starts picturing them up.
Right.
I think
Yep.
that leads to him actually making the full people art from the pictures. Anyway,
you want to
after
end it
that-
when he kills the kids?
The third
Yeah.
incident is where it starts getting real gross.
dude, this incident, I remember seeing this in the theater, and like obviously as soon as you see it, you know what could happen and what all the things that are in the imagination of what could happen, and you're just like, wow, how is it going to play out? And it's worse than you could ever imagine. There's
Yeah.
things that happen that you are just like, oh my god, like this is like watching a snuff film. Like this is like it looks like these people are actually dying. Like it's absolutely insane. and it's wild, and I enjoyed the fuck out of it. It was so crazy, dude. I couldn't believe that
sick,
he
dude.
was able to put this in the movie.
It's
Like
sick.
it was absolutely crazy. It
What's
was absolutely
crazier
crazy.
is that
Super
what
uncomfortable.
did you watch the X-rated version or
I watched the unrated.
NC-17?
I saw this.
Unrated?
The unrated version played in LA one night, and I went to see it that night. Me and Joel got tickets to see it that night.
Damn. And
Yeah,
what?
pretty
show
crazy.
How
show
much
the kids
worse
getting
was
their
it?
heads blown off?
It showed more. I mean, honestly, I can't remember exactly what it was, to be honest. I don't know why I was just gonna pretend to. I really can't remember what the biggest differences were because I saw it in 2018 in the movie theater, so I do not remember the differences.
I just heard they just didn't cut away basically
From-
from the kids
okay.
getting like shot or something.
Well,
like
I
they
mean,
never
I
actually
watched-
showed the bullets going in or anything. They just
Well,
always like
The version I watched had the kid's
the
leg get
cuts.
blown off, showed that, and showed the kid get shot in the head. Like I saw that in the version I watched on the that I hear like a couple weeks ago.
oh,
On-
did
you
you have a
see that?
DVD unrated?
I don't
It's
know, maybe
it's
I-
always a cutaway though.
Where
Like
did
they
you
don't
watch
actually
it?
like show them get it. It's like you hear the shot, you see the head, but then it cuts. It goes away from the kid. It doesn't actually
Oh,
show
no,
the
I mean, I watched a YouTube video about an hour ago on it too, where they
Oh.
showed the actual shit too. I can show it to you if you want to see it. It's pretty wild.
Maybe
They show
later.
the kids
Maybe-
like
maybe-
they show the kids leg
we'll,
get
we'll
blown
save it
off.
for
Bust it
later.
out,
It's
dude.
cool. We'll save it for
Bust
later.
it out.
Is it also where he cuts a fucking the leg off a duck like a little psycho?
That was fucking crazy too. Yeah. I mean, that's what most like serial killers do, though, right? They
Yeah,
start with
start
animals, when they're
torturing
kids.
animals. Yeah,
Yeah,
That's what they
just the
say.
thing.
I've killed
I think it was-
animals. I've never killed a person.
I remember
Yeah,
this whole
so- yeah,
this
but you
whole
didn't
scene
torture animals,
with the
did you?
killing the kids
Maybe.
was all about like
Wow, sicko.
relating to nature and stuff too. All the how it's like natural. Like I don't know. He's always just trying to justify his killing.
What in this movie?
I
Yeah,
don't think
Well, he
was sure-
thinks it's
what was
he thinks he's doing like the work of an artist. Like I think he thinks his failed architecture is now what this is. Like it's become this. This is what his calling is. He's making fucking art out of his
building
killings.
a house, dude.
You know what I mean? Well, the house that he built didn't end up being what it is until the end, where Verge was like, "You never built your house." And he's like, "Well, I guess I got to build a house." And I think that's just where he was at the time. You know, he was in
yeah. I
that
think 'cause he kept fucking up on the land he had, and he kept fucking up on
Yeah.
the house, so he kept having to like tear it down and try something different.
That was interesting too, is that they keep cutting back to like his giant piece of property where he was building. He was trying to build an actual house, and like he would get like 2/4 or 2/3 of the way done, and then have to tear it all down and shit. It was like, this guy's fucking wild, dude. He's a fucking maniac.
That's that
Fucking
OCD.
Yeah.
Because it was always something that wasn't like he was just like, this is never gonna work. This wouldn't look good like this, and then he had to tear it down. It was never like something like serious. It was always something like aesthetic. I feel like it was
materials
unimportant.
was always the thing. Was always
Yeah.
the
This
recurring
movie
thing, I believe.
sucked.
So he was great.
Yeah.
So he was
Wasn't-
great.
definitely
Jake, for
not
someone
great.
who I'm not gonna lie, Jake, you've given a lot of great points on this movie so far, and you've known a lot about it. So I think you do hate the subject matter of this movie, but I do think you think it's a good movie. Like I don't think you'll ever watch it again, but I do think you respect this movie because you know you've made some great points.
Yeah, there's a lot of
You know what I mean?
from filmmaking perspective and that side, the craft was well done in that sense, but it was definitely too long and gross.
Lover
Yeah,
of
I
the
give it's like
craft.
30 minutes too long for sure. Anyway, so let's get back to it. He takes this mom and her two children, probably like 7 and 10, two little boys, to a remote fucking, what do you even call this place? What is this? Is it a shooting range?
Just to,
Like, what is it?
Just out.
what is
It's
it?
just like
he's just out in nature.
Out in
Yeah, he has a
prairies,
hunting
dude.
blind, but I feel like it was on his property.
maybe
What's
that's
it?
just his property.
Oh yeah,
That's
it
where he's
probably
building
was
the
on his
house.
big ass property.
Yeah.
You're right. That probably was on his property. Holy shit. That's crazy, actually. Now I think about that. He just had that big ass property used to lure people there. Okay. So on his property, he builds a big hunting blind, but there's like little ditches set up too. That's why I say that, like for people to take cover and shit. I think you're right. I think he built that. That's crazy. I
Could've
think
just built
there were
that.
like little like pieces of metal you can hide behind, and like big like almost like a war zone. It kind of looked like rubble and
Yeah.
shit like that at certain points. I think he fucking
Seemed like a,
like
like
he
a
built
shooting
like
range of
little
sorts,
a-
but yeah.
dug
or like
out
just
little
a
shit, too.
decrepit farm.
Maybe that's what it was.
Just
Either
shit
way,
around
there was
but he
things that
had
people
like
could
he
hide
had
behind.
yeah he made a shooting range. He had like a
Like targets and stuff. like, for
targets.
target practice.
yeah fucking
Yeah.
set up.
Sure.
Whatever. Who gives a fuck
Anyway.
what it was?
It was pretty fucking creepy. He takes his
He
his
used it
mom
to
and her
kill-
2 kids,
kill children.
and basically he has like it starts where he's like setting up a lunch with them, and he's like they're gonna just have a picnic and like go shoot a couple ducks. Like I guess they had their duck hunting outfits or quail or the fuck they're shooting. And then it like cuts like abruptly to the kids and the mom running and he's in the fucking blind, and he's basically like, all right, you guys got like a couple seconds to run, I'm gonna shoot you, or whatever the fuck he says to him, and you're just like, oh my god, and he like cuts to like through the scope of the gun, and like you see their faces of terror and shit like that, and then boom, it cuts to he shoots the one kid's leg off, fucking, and it's intercut with that and them in the family, close-ups of their faces, the terror of being hunted by this dude who's trying to, the mom thought she was trying to bang him, and the kids were going to come for a nice day, and they were going to bang and have a picnic, you know what I mean? Like in terms of the terror. No, he's going to bang the mom later that night. Take the kids for a picnic, take them home, put the kids to sleep, bang the mom, call it a night. Everybody was going to win. And they get to shoot some birds, but then they get
was a few bangs involved.
He's hunting him. He's fucking straight hunting him. Shoots the one kid's leg off, then shoots the other kid in the face, and then cuts to the worst part where after the kids are dead, he sets them up like they're really not dead and makes the mom have a picnic with him. And she pretends to feed them food and tell them that they're gonna be okay and what they're gonna do when they go home later. And he starts talking like he's their dad and shit. It was just terrible. It's one of the worst things I've ever seen put on film. It was wild, and I couldn't believe he was able to get away with that. And then basically he tells the mom to run, and she runs, and he shoots her and kills her. And the worst part of it all is that's not even the worst part. The worst part of it all is that he takes the one kid's body and brings him to the freezer and makes him a fucking like carrot, like a little frozen popsicle character person. Pretty fucking wild. Does like a Joker face on him.
Yeah, makes him smile.
Fucking wild, dude.
Man, you want him to be happy.
Yeah, I guess so. What happens after that?
I remember around that same time, it was when he was talking about himself, there was like a cutaway of like just a jump scene to him looking at faces that it was like cutting out faces of magazines that were like different expressions and posting them around in his mirror and like trying to like fake expressions, like acting as if he was a normal person. That's when he I think that's around the time where I think probably between these two incidences, because this is where he's trying to more integrate into society because he tried with that family. And then that's when the fourth incident's Simple.
Yeah, the next incident. So also, I guess what you're also learning about Verge and him right now is that like, when do you get to, I guess we're going to spoil it anyway, or it's going to cut it. When do you realize that they're like walking to hell? Like when does that come about?
After
it's like 3 hours.
That's what
that's later.
During the fifth incident is when that basically happens. That's when all the dudes are chained to the log, and then he tries to.
I think once he sees
12 people at once.
Verge,
he sees
life.
Verge. Okay.
I just watched the YouTube version that I watched. I mean, not the YouTube, the Hulu version, and they definitely don't show kids getting hit by anything. They don't.
Okay, so
they don't even show him shooting the gun. They just show you hear a gunshot, and then it cuts to him like cocking the gun again.
Well, there's a YouTube video where they show it. That
I'm looking it up right now.
It's I'll tell you.
I'm putting house that Jack built, kid shot. Oh no, there's already one right here. Oh yeah.
So go to Spooky Rice. Graphic. Spooky Rice is the guy who posted the video I watched.
I'm watching.
It's pretty wild.
I'm watching it.
Yeah.
I don't know
Kid's leg gets really blown off.
Yeah, you see it. It's pretty rad.
All right, so he's talking to Verge, and he's telling him how much an arrogant piece of shit he is. And at some point in there, he starts sending pictures he's taken of these murders to like the FBI or newspapers or something, calling himself Mr. Sophistication. He gave himself like this nickname of his serial killer name, and he just randomly sends them shit.
Yeah, he's almost like trying to get caught. He's just like, I can get away with this. He's arrogant. Yeah, very arrogant about it. Because even in the next one with Simple, he says something, or with the cops, he tells the cops that he killed 60 people. I don't know why you're trying to make.
What are you doing? I want to see that.
Jake didn't want to watch it.
Oh, goddamn.
Okay, number one, it's obviously CG and it looks terrible. Like it was the worst CG thing I've ever seen.
They probably did that purposely to make it so that like it's just terrible.
It's more effective. The second one's pretty rough.
The kid get shot in the head. With
the leg.
The second one's pretty rough.
Second one's a headshot.
Yeah, that one definitely did.
They probably show more of the kid's face in the next scene too when they're eating. They're making them pretend to eat in that one too.
But the one where he shoots him while he's running, it doesn't.
Yeah, it looks terrible.
That looked terrible. That was laughable. That looked like Toy Story. Looked like Woody falling.
It did. You're right.
But the second one's pretty rough.
The fourth story, which is just as fucked
YouTube,
up as
you want to go check it out.
The fourth story is just as fucked up as the last one with the kids in its own way. It basically shows him with like his girlfriend, played by Riley Coe, who he just keeps insulting, and he actually calls her Simple because he's implying that she's just a dumbass. and he's just berating her fucking verbally, and she's taking it and acting like nothing's happening, and asking him what he wants to eat and shit like that, and he's just like acting to her like a complete piece of shit. And
she's taking it.
She's taking it like it's nothing. Like she's just
in
used to it.
Very
And
abusive relationship.
Super abusive, super fucking terrible. And this whole movie too, like we said before, is like he's talking
this
low
would be
about
a
women.
great-
Like
This movie
women,
would be a
he's
great
very not into women.
double feature with Barbie.
I never saw Barbie.
I think this and Barbie would be better than Barbenheimer. It'd be the house that Barbie built.
I mean, yeah.
Jake's over here taking notes.
House that Barbie built. We'll say that again.
He was saying
said-
there should be a double feature with Barbie.
Right?
It's very similar to the Dojo Mojo Casa house.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Shout out to Barbie. Anyways, continue,
Yeah.
Jake Schwartz. Jake
So yeah,
Schwartz.
what I don't even, what is the minute it escalates? Like
I don't know, he just
basically
decides to kill her.
he
He's
basically
doing
just, like-
kinky shit with
Oh.
her, where he's like we're drawing on her like a surgeon would draw on someone about to
like
get a
circle
boob job,
titties.
like doing
He-
the
so basically
circles and
after
then calling her stupid and blah
Yeah,
blah blah,
af-
and she gets mad.
after berating her and telling her she's a dumbass, he basically just opens up her fucking shirt and, like you said, draws circles around her tits surgically where they would get removed or make bigger. And she basically says to him, "You're a fucking weirdo." And like she gets up, and then like that's where it escalates to where he's like, "I've killed people and I'm gonna kill you." And doesn't he like try to choke her out? And then like she tries to scream. Like no, this
She
scene's
runs
pretty
away.
long.
She runs like out into the alleyway, and then he starts crying, and he's like, "I'm sorry, I'm just fucked up, blah blah blah." And then like I think she goes back upstairs with him, and then he kills her.
Well, he also goes out to the car and the cop is there and she's trying to convince the cop just to save her. And he thinks they're both drunk idiots because Jack comes out acting like he's drunk and the cop just dismisses her, which I think is another terrible thing about like he's trying to say that like women are unreliable. You know what I mean? They're not, they're liars or whatever the fuck he wants to say. Barry sure hates women. Like what's so he really does. He hates women.
But it also shows like I think that the underlying thing is for some reason this guy can't get caught too. Like that's
Yeah,
kind of
that's
one of
true.
those.
Because he literally tells the cops he's killed 60 people and they think he's joking, but he
Yeah,
didn't
because he's
tell the
drunk.
cops that. Yeah, and I think there's also within this movie, I feel like there's references to other serial killers like that. So it's very similar to a
Ed
Jeffrey
Gein?
or no, that was more of a Dahmer situation where Dahmer, like there was
Yeah,
a kid that Dahmer had like drugged up in his apartment. He like got out
Oh.
and then
I was just talking about the titty
ran to the cops, and then Dahmer's like, "No, it's my drunk boyfriend," and then the cops are like, "Gross, take him." And then they just gave this like victim back to Dahmer at one point.
Yeah.
And also where the whole Jack situation's happening, there's like the Northwest is like a referential to either was it Ted Bundy or there's like the Green River Killer and stuff like that. So
GRK.
yes,
And his name's Jack.
Jack
Ted.
the GRK.
Jack the
All right.
Deer.
So
It's referential to other serial killers as well. I think that
after
scene
the cop tells them to
was
go
definitely one of them.
inside, they do go inside and like they go to sleep. And I think they really do. They go to sleep. And then they wake up and she tries to sneak out of the house and he's basically there and she realizes it. And he's like, "All right, well, let's both scream really loud and try to get us caught. And so you can get the fuck out of here. Like, I don't care about you. No one else does. And I'm
yeah.
going to prove it." And like he starts screaming with her. They're like, "Help, help, help." And no one comes. And then it just cuts to him screaming out the window and like does a big zoom out to the whole fucking place. And then the next scene, he's sticking one of her titties on the cop car when you see the cop in the background, like talking to some guy in the alley. It's crazy. It's craziness.
That's probably the
Cut her titties
craziest
off.
scene is when he slaps a breast
Titty on the
on
windshield?
on the windshield.
Yeah, those last
Left
two
or right
incidents
breast,
together
yeah.
are both very disturbing in their own ways of like the abuse toward children and then like how he treats Riley Keough. I don't want to call her simple because I feel bad. It's like
Yeah.
the way he like treats her is just so like
Horrible.
fucking just so
Yeah, not nice.
just so uncomfortable to watch.
I think this
And then
movie is an
I-
uncomfortable movie to watch, though.
Oh, it's very uncomfortable. And then Virgil even jokes to him like, "Well, it just seems like you're targeting dumb women. Like, why does that make you so special?" Even
Yeah,
like
so
calls him out at one
sophisticated.
point. Yeah, and that's when he starts calling himself Mr. Sophistication around that time, I believe. And then he
Sick.
tells him what the fifth one's the story of the 12 dudes he has chained up that he tries to shoot a full metal jacket through.
So yeah, by the last
that's-
incident,
I'm not gonna lie, that was my favorite. That
It's
was my
pretty
favorite
interesting.
incident.
pretty interesting. By this time, he's got a refrigerator full of people alive and dead. You're cut to he's got like probably like 10 people dead in the freeze, and like, what is it in the that are chained up? He's like 5 people, right?
I think it's 12. He's trying to shoot through 12 people, and I
12
think
people?
the last dude he brings in is the 12th guy.
Okay, so he's 12 people that are handcuffed by their hands and their feet, like on their knees with their faces bound to like a metal pole where they're all lined up so that they are like in a line.
their
Their
heads are in a row, yeah.
perfect like row. And he has a rifle and he's trying to shoot a full metal jacket through all of them at the same time. And the one dude who's in the front, young black dude, is like, "Yo, that's not a full metal jacket. I could see the fucking tip of it." Blah blah blah. And he's like, "Oh, he's right." So he goes to the store and he leaves him there. And he gets involved with this. He gets in a little argument with the store guy. And he's like, "Yo, I need a full metal jacket." Blah blah blah. And doesn't he like scream
I
at this
love
guy
that.
or something? What happened there?
He goes in, and this is a guy that apparently he knows that he always gets his ammo from or whatever. And I just love the whole scene where he was yelling at him about like the quality. He was like, "You need to check, like, I bought this whole thing and this isn't a full metal jacket." And like, this guy's obviously scared, like is intimidated by him. I don't know if he knows who he is or what he does, but he's just freaked out by him. Just that whole thing of him not having the right bullet, him going to fight, him getting, where did he get the one bullet from? He didn't get it from him. He was like,
So
out of
he
him or
left the
something.
store, went to his buddy's house,
Yeah.
who's like this trailer park guy. But the buddy realized who he was and tries to get him to stay there till the cops come.
But then he kills him,
Gets the bullet,
takes
goes
one
back to the
bullet
fucking-
from his thing.
But the guy called the cops. The
Also
buddy already
takes his
called the
red
cops.
devil cloak.
Yep. But the guy already called the cops, so the cops
Yeah.
are now on his trail, and he drives back to the pizza storage place, and
He
they're
shoots.
outside.
He kills the cops. I think he shoots
does.
a
He kills
cop
2 of them, right? Yeah.
in the trailer because he dresses as him. Kills the
Yeah.
cops. Goes back to the trailer with one bullet,
Steals the
or
cop
goes
car.
back to his freezer with one bullet.
Steals the cop car,
Leaves
drives
the
it back
cop,
to the
and
thing.
all his sole focus is on just completing this task to the point where he like kills his friend, kills the cop, steals the cop car, takes it full sirens and lights all the way back, leaves it running, siren blaring in the thing.
When it
and
cuts back
all
to the
he wants
sirens
to
blaring,
do
it's great.
is and now, and his scope isn't good enough, so now he's got to open or his scope is too strong, so he's got to go further back, so he's got to open this door that he's never opened before. Did we ever talk about that? Why did he never open that door before? What did he find?
he couldn't get it open before.
Was that where Verge is?
Yeah,
That's where Verge was. So at this point, it kind of switches a little weird narratively, because it's like, it seems like it's there in that world, but then suddenly you're in the scene where they're talking about it, and Verge is somehow in that room and like calls to him. And that's when he starts the story.
Yeah,
That's
like,
when
"Yo,
that walk back is
Jack."
essentially what they've just been talking about the whole time.
So if you notice, when the cops do get into as he's trying to do this, he opens the door to the next room, which is a completely pitch black room. At first, you don't see anything, and he gets back with the scope and he lines it up where it's got to be, and you see it clearly, and he's about to do his thing where he kills the people, and then you hear Verge's voice. But as that's happening, the cops are legit still trying to get inside, like they're trying to get into the place. And him and Virgil talk for like 2 or 3 minutes, and you realize that they're about to walk into hell. And he tells them that he's got to take him to hell, is because for his fucking sins or whatever. And
You're a bad guy.
but
Builds the
he's
house
like,
of
you
bodies.
never built the house. Like, yeah, you never actually did what you said you were gonna do. You're kind of a dick. You're kind of a dickhead who's fucking sucks. Like, you said you're a terrible person. And he does. He basically says it to him. He's like, all the shit you've been talking, the shit you've been doing, like, it's not good shit. And he's like, all right, well, he builds the house out of the bodies.
Yeah.
Makes contorts, all the contorted bodies that he has, and pulls them into his house, which is a crazy visual, a great visual. Like, it's awesome fucking visual. And they go into a Virgil in the middle of this body of houses. There's like a drain. They open the drain. Virgil goes in, and as
It's just Verge.
Jack goes in, the cop shoots. And in my opinion, Jack was killed right there.
That's where he
This is
kills
the
him.
rest of it. The rest of it is just his imagination. Personally, that's what I think. Is it's all just in his head.
Or yeah, that's where he's going to hell.
Yeah, that's where he's going to hell for sure.
Yeah, that's where he's
I
going.
mean, I
Got
think
it.
from
Got
like
it.
him getting
Little boy,
into
you're going
that
to
back
hell.
room, because maybe the time is a little funky, like for us, but like I think that's probably when, if he does get killed, the cops probably got in when he tries to like open the door, and then that's probably when he gets murdered, and that's when he starts hearing Verge calling to him. That's when he builds the house. Like, he's already fucking dead. This is just his like his on
That's
his
the
way out.
epilogue.
That's when he goes to, yeah, exactly. That's when he they go to hell and they just walk for like 15 minutes for some reason. It just takes a real long time. Go
He's
through.
explaining shit to him in this time too,
some
isn't he? What
river.
else is he talking about?
Boy, does
I
he
think that's what the
explain-
whole
he
movie
explains
was.
The whole movie to him. He explains the whole movie to us, and then
Oh yeah,
and then
that's
he
what they were doing as
explains.
they were walking.
And then he
Yeah.
explains like why Lars Vern Troyer is the greatest and why he's in the history of films is the best. And then it's like
Lars Vern Troyer.
there's a lot of fucking talking.
Lars Vern
in the
Troyer's
That's the funniest
best
thing
director.
I've ever
yeah.
heard. That's you should make a shirt that says Lars Vern Troyer.
Lars Vern Troyer.
Yeah, it'd be fucking awesome.
R.I.P.
You should. That should be our first shirt. Make me watch movie shirt. Lars Vern Troyer.
Lars Vern Troyer. Shout out to that
Anyway.
little crazy director.
Yeah, that's basically the movie. Well, okay, so they're walking. You realize he's been walking to hell. Verge is some sort of angel or demon, whatever the fuck you want to look at it. And what's cool about this part is visually, like they go into like paintings. Like there's these old like Renaissance paintings. Like they look like Italian fucking paintings of like people crossing the river to go to hell. Like Dante's Inferno has got a bunch of paintings made after it, which is also a movie about a guy going through the 9 circles of hell or whatever the fuck it is to get to hell. And that's what I think they were trying to convey. And when he gets to a certain point, he's like, Verge, what is that door over there? And he's like, oh, that's the door out of here to go to heaven. You can make it there. You go to fucking heaven. So obviously, Mr. Sophistication's like, fuck these people. I'm about to go to heaven. And he crimes and he falls into the bottom depth of hell, which in the video I watched is supposedly where the devil hangs. The devil himself is in the most bottom pit. So he's down there with him.
The river
eternally
Styx.
damned. Eternally damned. And that's it. That's the House of Jack built.
He died, killed
Whatever,
people,
dude.
then he died, and it was.
It's a
gross.
social commentary like American Psycho was. It's fucked up. It's fun. It's terrible, but it's fun.
I'd rather watch American Psycho.
Well, American Psycho was less abrasive. American Psycho kind of painted him like a cool guy. You never thought Jack was a cool guy in this movie. You always hated Jack. You know what I mean? That's the
Yeah, it was
difference.
always awkward, fucking
He's a piece of shit.
dumbass.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
He's a piece of shit.
he was dumb.
Both movies, you were definitely in the head of them. None of it's
Mhm.
real. Some of it's real. What's real? Who cares? Who knows? You're just
Yeah.
seeing what they're thinking. That's it. That's the movie.
Tell you one thing, Tim Dillon, phenomenal.
Matt Dillon.
Matt
Yeah, he was
Dillon.
awesome.
Matt
He was
Dillon.
really
Tim
good.
Dillon.
Yeah.
Do we know a Tim
Matt-
Dillon? Matt
I
Dillon.
think it sounds familiar.
Doesn't
Yeah,
it?
but Matt Dillon was very good. Matt Dillon
was
was the
phenomenal.
actor in this film. Yes, he was very good. It's probably I
No,
would
I'm
say
talking about
second
Tim
best
Dillon,
role.
our friend. No, I'm just kidding.
His second best role behind Something About Mary.
something about Mary's pretty great.
He was great at Something About Mary.
I don't know, man. He
Circles
he
back to
acted
that.
his ace off in this movie.
Yeah, he was great.
Full marks for MD.
What do you guys rate this movie?
Mhm. I'll give it like a 5-5. Like it's
Okay.
not it's disturbing and I would never recommend it to anyone. It's hard to fucking watch but like I said earlier, the filmmaking was well done and Matt Dillon killed it.
I agree with all those things, except I would recommend the fuck out of this just to have people watch it.
Thank you. I love
It's
that.
like Border, you know? It's like, hey, watch this movie.
Border's amazing.
I'm not saying that Border is as bad and like what they're in the message as this, although I don't know what the message of Border was.
Yeah, if someone asked me, "Hey, what's the most fucked up movie you've seen, or what's like the most disturbing movie out there?" Maybe this would come to mind, and I would recommend it if they
or
want to
one
watch
that
that
I-
sort of thing.
One that I just know you haven't seen. Like nobody's seen this movie.
If you're a film nerd, you've seen this movie. It's probably about it.
If you're a Vern Troyer fan,
If you're a Lars Vern Troyer
Lars Vern
fan,
Troyer fan.
this movie.
All right, Anthony, 1 out of 10. What do you give it?
I give it a 6.3.
Okay. I'm going to go 7.0.
7.0.
7.0.
Solid
better
C.
better average than I thought. But
You
hey,
know, you can't deny the good things about the movie,
right?
It's funny.
even though
Great
you hate
Great vision, but it's fucked up.
the bad
Yeah.
things.
God, you know what may be the best scene ever in any movie is the scene in Gone Girl where she kills Doogie Howser on the bed as he's about to bust in her and she slits his throat. The Trent Reznor soundtrack and the way he cut that when it just like does the jump cuts to shit and it's like womp womp and she's just blood all over her and she's just sitting on the bed with like that's the best scene ever. That scene is insane.
We didn't talk about what he did with the other breast,
He made it into a wallet.
like a little coin purse.
Yeah, he paid for that. He paid for the bullet with out of the titty wallet, and it looked all like aged and shit. It was
Looked
gross.
bad.
Yeah,
Looked like it was not done
Looked
professionally.
terrible. Looked bad, dude.
The dude did not know how
Yeah.
to sew. Let's say
Yeah,
that.
it was terrible.
Because he probably did it, and he sucks at life, and he probably did a bad job
He did.
with his shitty titty wallet.
Shitty titty wallet. Shittytitty.com.